Okay, zoning board, we are live. We are recording. Phone lines will remain off. Go for it.
Thank you, Matt, and welcome to the East Hampton Town Zoning Board of Appeals hearing for November 1st, 2022. Tonight is a work session. We have one administrative hearing. I'll read that into the record, and then we'll go to Tyler for a report on that. So the applicant is Donna Leonard at 93 Gerard Drive in Springs, Suffolk tax map number 300-41-2-7.1, and that is to replace in place an existing approximately 800 square foot first floor deck. Tyler?
Sure. Something else was actually added to this. Apparently, it just got submitted yesterday. They emailed me about it today, which is geothermal wells as well. But the bulk of it is replacing the decking up on the east side of this property. You might remember that this property was in front of the board not too long ago. I think 2020 they got an approval to do additions to the house, driveway, new sanitary, and shed, among some other smaller things. They were replacing the boards on that you can do without an NRSP. They saw that the underside was rotten, so they want to replace that as well. Fairly minor in-kind replacement of an existing deck. And they also want to do 3 geothermal wells here on the west side of the property. No significant amount of disturbance. Pretty straightforward from what I can tell. I did ask, they're closed loop systems, so they won't be interacting with the groundwater at all. It's just a standard, geothermal well down and then back up to help heat.
Are you sure 3, how many wells?
3. One here.
If it's are you sure they're closed loop?
Yes, I asked. I had them double check today.
Closed loop usually requires some real estate I thought. And there's not, I don't know if there's enough water table to get down there. I would check on that.
That's what my concern was as well, and saltwater intrusion as well, eventually.
100%.
Which is why they wouldn't be able to do open loop, I would imagine, just from getting salt in the system.
The other thing is this house, there was supposed to be the ZBA decision. I believe the house was supposed to kind of remain in its present state or whatever. I forget what it was. I understand there was a stop work order on it. Do you know what the nature of that stop work order is?
I don't know the nature of the stop work.
My understanding is that the stop work order was for exceeding the ZBA decision.
I don't remember if there was a modification of the board granted on it. I have to look it up.
Ken, I don't know, maybe I'm wondering if we should just table this until we figure this out.
I think I was going to recommend that too.
How big is the house?
That's not a big house, but I think they did more than what was in their decision.
Is there any reason we couldn't table this just to look in, get the details down?
Oh, I'm wondering if we should.
Yeah, there's no reason at all.
Questions, yeah.
So I would like to see some background on why there was a stop work order.
Sure.
And then maybe to see the nature, tie it in. Take a brief look at the ZBA decision relative to the work being done. And then also getting better verification on the geothermal.
Yes.
I just see if you're doing closed loop, you've got a very shallow water table there. I don't know how they're gonna get it.
Yeah.
Has any sort of methodology been entered into the record, Tyler?
Do you want information from the engineers on it?
Yeah.
Well, in this particular area, the point Chairman Deline is making is very relative. They might not even have the depth.
Yeah, that was a concern of mine as well.
Well, I don't know. I'd like to make a recommendation that we do table it because it does seem like the board has pertinent questions that really need to be addressed.
Sure.
Mhm.
I agree. So we'll
Okay.
table that.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if necessary, we could later date pair off the deck rebuild and the geothermal, and send the geothermal to a hearing if you wanted to, or something like that. But we can figure that out.
Yeah. No. All right, thank you. And
Okay.
then we'll go into the post-hearing decisions. First one is Sylvia Wong at 25 Surf Drive, Amagansett, Suffolk Tax Map number 300-174-3-4.1. The size and location is 26,000 square feet at 25 Surf Drive, Beach Hampton section, Amagansett. The description is to construct a 200 square foot swimming pool, 642 square foot pool deck, pool equipment, pool fencing, and gates, including driveway gates, propane tanks, to remove a portion of driveway for the revegetation and the removal of invasive bamboo within wetlands, and to upgrade a sanitary system on a parcel of land that contains freshwater wetlands. A natural resources special permit pursuant to 255-420 and any other relief necessary from East Hampton Town Code. Zoning district is B, residence, AE flood zone, elevation 10, and the secret class is type 2. And this would have been Joan, member McGivern's, but she is tending to her 91-year-old mom tonight. So the Vice Chair will start this up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The board will remember that the hearing was on September 27th, 2022, and that the survey we were working from was from April 1st, 2022. This was a hearing that was conducted in discussions about adding the swimming pool, as has been mentioned, regrading, revegetating a circular driveway, terminating it on 1/3 of its length and then filling in the rest, removal of invasive bamboo, particularly in the wetlands, but in other spots on the site, and the addition of this IA system. We had a discussion primarily based on whether or not let me start with the swimming pool and its location behind the house. We had a number of things associated with the swimming pool were part of this application. The swimming pool being directly behind the garage, as it was on the east side of the house, gave me concern. Others who had seen it, there's going to be a fair amount of clearing there. There is, however, going to be left a sizable buffer between the swimming pool and the neighbor to the east. The neighbor to the east did send in a letter of support, which we took into some consideration in the midst of this discussion. Among the things that were offered up by the client, by the applicant, in terms of compensation for what they were asking for here, was number more start with bamboo removal. The bamboo removal, we did have questions about. It's obviously a very good and positive thing. We'd like to see it happen, but how is it to be done? And we're concerned that there's a wetland that's entirely now populated with bamboo. Removing it, returning it to a more natural state is, of course, an advantage. And bamboo that's going to continue to grow in other parts of the property can be removed more easily. At that point, we said that the whatever conditions that the way in which they planned on removing the bamboo would then be discussed and included before the issuance of the building permit and whatever updated re-veg plan that would be passed on to the planning department. The sanitary upgrade was one that was, although it's not required, was one that was offered, and that is a definite improvement. The existing sanitary system now sits within 20 feet of the wetlands. The furthest north on the property that this could be located is where they plan to put the sanitary system. And by doing that, they've moved it significantly from the wetland in this case. Let me just see here what else I have. Is it, yeah, there's a final plan for the removal of bamboo has to be sent off to the building department. And I was concerned about, and we have been concerned about what impact it might have on neighbors to remove as much as we did. I think the primary one where we're going to see a change in character of the neighborhood is the new sanitary system, which of course can only be replanted with beach grass, which will not represent protection for the neighbor to the north, but it does represent a very positive improvement on what is there at this time now. The other thing that came up was this vegetating this part of the circular driveway. The applicant had asked that a portion of that driveway be left lawn. This is the part that probably most troubling for me and perhaps other board members, in that this is now natively a dune land, and this has had various states of dune on it and vegetation, of native dune land, and then vegetation has grown up and changed that, and we see it. And the idea of encouraging more lawn in this natural native dunescape is not appealing to me in this case. When I look down on what they were asking for, which was the pool and its associated features, pool equipment, and there's a retaining wall that'll have to be built. And then weigh that against the addition of the septic, the removal of the bamboo, and the revegetation of the driveway. I'm willing to move forward with this and consider their approval, but I'm not interested in approving the additional lawn space. I think that adding lawn of any type to this environment is unnecessary and really not something that we want to encourage in this particular setting. So looking at it from this, we're looking for an NRSP, asking myself under 255-5-51, preservation of natural resources, have we done anything to improve or to modify the environment that is a positive? I think the answer is yes. I think that adding the septic system here is a positive. I think pulling out the bamboo is a positive, and I think that revegetating the driveway is also a positive here. I think that asking ourselves, is there alternate reasonable uses of the property? I think for what they're asking and what we're getting, I think it's a net positive. And then under 255-5-40, compatibility with the site, environmental protection. I don't think we create great impact in incompatibility here. I think that this is a pretty well vegetated site. I think that whatever work is getting done here will be screened from the street and from other neighbors. The most concern is that neighbor to the east, but a buffer was promised by the applicant to be left. That land won't be disturbed. The last several feet there that goes beyond the pool, all the distance between the pool and the property line. And then the question of environmental protection. I think that by the several features, there's several offers that have been made here. I think that this is a positive move, and I'm willing to support this application in its primary. I'm only interested in the addition of the pool. I'm not concerned. I'm not willing to approve the additional grassland. So I would condition my approval on that the entire driveway should be that is be abandoned, is to be put back into native vegetation.
Thank you, Ed. Terry?
Okay, I could say ditto to all of that. I too went through that. I think the EIA system in this case is a good improvement. The existing system right now is about 22 feet from the wetlands, and it's going to be put on the northernmost part of the property. So I think that's a major improvement in terms of the septic. The pool also, yeah, there's a lot of, I guess the vegetation there in that area now is a mix of some good and some not so good. But I think it will be tucked in close enough to the other behind the garage and next to the accessory building that they have. I was a little concerned about this property kind of sprawling from the main house to an accessory building and garage, and there were all kinds of walkways and decking going between all of those around the property. But the bothersome thing for me also was this replacement with lawn. It was recommended by the planning department that there shall be no lawn in the conditions of approval, and that was the one objection that the applicant's agent and the applicant pushed back on, that they want this lawn. And they describe it as a small lawn in front of the main house. However, it's about 1,000 feet, I believe they said, of driveway that they want to remove and make it be lawn. So I too am in favor of all of the application except for that becoming lawn.
Thank you. Denise?
I approve with everyone. I think that the positives in this application outweigh any negatives. The new IA system obviously will be a plus. All of the services for the pool are being proposed close to the pool, which will eliminate additional clearing. I do agree that the entire driveway should be native vegetation. I think that less driveway, more re-veg with natives is a plus as well. The only work being done within 100 feet of wetlands is the abandonment of the existing septic. And I think the installation of dry wells to eliminate runoff from entering the wetlands from the existing outdoor shower. So all that being said, I think they are in compliance, and I am in favor of granting this natural resource special permit.
Thank you, Denise. And I don't have anything else to add. I agree with everything my board members said. Council, we good?
Just for clarification purposes, the re-veg of the driveway as a condition, is it only for the portion that they wanted to go ahead and make grass? Or are you saying that the entire driveway needs to be re-vegged?
They had a
Well,
portion,
well-
they had a portion of the driveway that they were abandoning. And that was about 2/3 the run. And they then proposed to re-veg that with native species for a portion of it and have grass, a lawn for another portion. We're saying that entire portion that they're abandoning should be in native vegetation.
Got it. Perfect.
Yeah, Council, you have a diagram for discussion only that you received September 2nd.
Yep, I see it. I just wanted to make sure that I understood you correctly. I got it. Yep.
Yeah, okay.
I'm just wondering if the condition that we're putting on that, what type of re-veg, or, I mean, I think the environmental benefit to this property is going to greatly be improved. So I'm wondering, I don't know if, what do we say the re-veg of the existing driveway where they wanted to put lawn should be? Or are we going to say it should be exhaustive, or, or can we say it's like beach grass or something like that? Something that's not
Well, couldn't-
overbearing for them.
But couldn't we say it's a
They're coming back to
continuation
us.
of what they've already
Yeah.
planned for the other portion
Well, I
of the
was thinking it
driveway?
was a continuation of those
Continuation, but
species
they have
they already
proposed-
have on it.
All right. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, council.
Yep, got it.
All right, so next we have Henry Drucker at 298 Further Lane in East Hampton, Suffolk tax map number 300-189-6-11.5. The size and location is 84,289 square feet at 298 Further Lane, East Hampton. And the description is to construct a 60 by 120 sunken tennis court with a 235 square foot pergola, platform, storage bunker, walkways, planter box, and to relocate the existing pool equipment. One variance of 59.2 feet from 255-1188 and 255-1110 of the town code is required to construct the play court 60.8 feet from the eastern front yard lot line where 120-foot setback is required and any other relief necessary. The zoning district is A2 residence, the zone X flood zone, and the secret class is type 2. And this was in my territory, so I'll kick it off. So this is a application for a sunken tennis court. The applicant was originally coming to us with a variance to install a tennis court 59.2 with a variance of 59.2. Based on this, just a little brief on this property, it's considered to have two front yards, one being Further Lane and one being Tyson Lane. Tyson Lane is a private drive. The applicant during the hearing came to us or just before the hearing, and came to us and relocated the the tennis court. And they are now placing it 80.5 feet from the property line, therefore seeking a 39.5 foot variance. They submitted a letter dated, or memorandum dated June 8th, 2022, in which they lay out different scenarios that they looked at. The original, they looked at putting the tennis court into a fully conforming location, and then they came back, they ultimately submitted the revised application or variance request where it is now at 80.5 feet from the property line. I agree with their argument that a fully compliant tennis court is not really feasible in this situation. It would require too much alterations on the existing structures. If you take a look at, and we often do not, we look hard at granting tennis court variances. And when we do, we look at the uniqueness of the property. And I believe the uniqueness, there is some uniqueness to this property in the fact that Tyson Lane is 50 foot wide, which would be, if you take that into account, as a private drive, there's 130.5, I believe, feet to the other side of Tyson Lane. Also, there's a reserve on the other side of Tyson Lane that can never be built. I think when you look at the uniqueness of it, I think what they came back to us is the most conforming location. The original, we don't believe. I think that would have been too much of a granted variance to grant. I'm in agreement with their application, and I'm voting to approve it. I maybe should go through the variance standards. First one is, does the benefit to the applicant from grant of the area variance outweigh any detriment which grant of the variance will cause to the general health, safety, and welfare of the neighborhood or town as a whole? And I say no. Is the area variance to be granted the minimum variance necessary and adequate to alleviate the difficulty causing the applicant to request an area variance, while at the same time preserving and protecting the character of the neighborhood and the general health, safety, and the welfare of the town as a whole? I do think the applicant at this, in this present state, has proved that it is the minimum variance necessary. I think the uniqueness of the property with Tyson Lane and the reserve beyond that does yield to some uniqueness to grant the variance. Has the applicant shown that the benefit accruing to him from the grant of the variance outweighs any harm which will be caused to the neighbor or town? And I believe he has. Will the grant of the variance cause an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood, or will it create a detriment to nearby properties? And in this case, I do not believe it will. Can the benefit sought by the applicant be achieved by some method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than an area variance? I think they pursued the option of having a fully conforming tennis court, and I think their reasoning for saying it's untenable is accurate. Is the requested variance substantial? It's a 39.5% variance. One could argue that it's substantial. But in this case, again, the uniqueness of the property I think is okay to approve this. Is it difficulty causing the applicant to request an area self-created? I feel most variance requests are self-created. One can argue that it's not, but yes, he is. They want to put a tennis court in. They're seeking a variance. But overall, I'm willing to approve this application. Ed?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm in agreement with you. When I looked at this, I looked at the history. There were several, we received several surveys, and this project moved along in a variety of ways. There was a survey of November 15th, 2021, which showed the proposed tennis court in its preferred location. There was one of January 11th, 2022, where they added the locations for equipment storage and pergola and walkways by keeping the court in about the same way. There was a June 1st that showed the tennis court at 100% totally conforming location, which, as was pointed out by the chairman, was not only not practical, but probably couldn't even be built. It was right up against the house and would require removal of the pool, which had been permitted in an earlier action. And it would require the removal of the pool and the patios around it. Then we got this request that this proposal to move it so that it was 80 feet from there. I think that the property, and that was the last proposal for them. I think that the property is entered from further lane by car and that the parking is there. And although this is 2 front yards, the private lane nature of what we have here keeps that side where the tennis court is most, requiring the variance up against a portion of the property that is not fronted by another house or by neighbors who might be in somehow disturbed by having that tennis court there. I think that the Tyson as a buffer was a major concern, and it was a major reason why I'm willing to vote for this. I think, as was pointed out by the chair, there is a significant amount of space giving Tyson, and then knowing that beyond that, there's the town land, which is a reserve area, and so that we're not looking at in perpetuity that we might see somebody across the way building a house and saying, why did they allow this to happen? I agree with the chair that all of these locating tennis courts is difficult. Having something 60 by 120 feet and locating it on a property is to not be a problem can be a hard thing. In this case here, I think that they did look at this at several different ways, came back and talked to us. I came back with a proposal that was more in keeping with what we might want to see. Then I think that the other thing about this is that every one of these tennis courts comes in with its own conditions. These conditions are unique to itself. This is different than many, if not most, of the requests we might receive of this nature because of the fact that the Tyson Lane buffer gives us a little bit more room to protect the neighborhood and the town from their activity. I also think that one of our jobs here is not only to provide and enforce the code, but is to provide relief as well as restriction when that possibility exists. And I think in this case, this is exactly what we can do here. We see a situation that is on its face difficult, and we see them work with us a little bit and come back. And under the conditions that are there in the field and seeing what's been done by the applicant, I am willing to approve this at this time.
Thank you.
Okay, well, I came in here ready to deny this application. I thought at the hearing, there was a lot of discussion with all these conforming location, not so conforming, and I thought ultimately they retracted the 39.5-foot variance option and left us with the 59. So I was ready to deny that.
Right. The only thing-
Based on, I'm reading the letter. I
think
know
the only thing they said that they tried to argue that where it is with the smaller variance request, it would affect the other neighbor, but it doesn't. We can't argue that. We can't, because they meet the setback there. They meet the double setback, so it doesn't come into play, right? So, but anyway, go ahead. I'm
Okay,
sorry.
anyway, so there was a lot of discussion back and forth. I think all of us weren't clear what they were actually asking for during the hearing.
Yeah.
So I see this letter. I know that's there. I don't see, is there a survey that was submitted with the 39.5-foot variance?
Yes, that's Tyler has that
That's
up.
what you have?
Yeah.
Okay, because I don't see that, I didn't find it online either, but okay. So that's out there.
It is online.
All right, so what's the date of that survey?
May 27th.
Okay, May 27th, okay. So considering that they change it, now the variance goes from being just about 50% of a variance to, I guess, about 30% or 35%.
Yeah.
I too will approve it on that basis for all the things listed in their June 8th submission date letter and what both of you have already stated. So I will approve this variance.
Thank you. Denise?
I do agree with my fellow board members. I too did review the June 8th, 2022 documentation again. I think this is separate and apart from other things. There is a uniqueness to it with the private lane and also the ag reserve property, which will never be developed afterwards. So I believe there is a reason to say yes to this, and I do feel it is in keeping with the standard, and I approve this application.
Thank you.
Okay, now that we're approving it, one recommended project condition that no soils be
Yes.
removed from the property.
That's agricultural.
And I requested that they can remove them, or we're going to hold them to no soil shall be removed?
That's a good question.
I would like to hold them to that.
Yeah, I think so too.
Oh, that's a lot of soil.
That's correct.
Well, she mentioned they'll make a berm.
There was mention of a berm.
Yeah,
Mm. That's a lot of soil. How many yards? I'll figure that
Yeah.
out quickly.
But
And that's being, I mean, there were many ways I was looking at this application, one of which was to explore a reduction in the size of the tennis court. But given all the other unique circumstances, the one condition being recommended by planning is no soils being removed. I think that's reasonable.
there's an
What's your
option.
thought, Ed?
Well, there's an option that the soils can be removed if they're taken to a spot that has been certified for storage of these kinds of materials. So that may be something that can be pursued. That's not in front of us, however, so I don't know how we can condition anything like that. In other words, this is not the only property that's had farmland soil removed from the site, even though they're meant to stay on the site because they have to occasionally it is done.
That's 34,000 yards.
34,000 yards?
Yes. Oh, no, I'm sorry.
3,400
No, I forgot. Divide by 27. Sorry, my bad. That's 1,280
oh, I
yards,
say we hold them to it.
1,300 yards.
And they seemed to think that the section of the code was different, essentially. I'll try and find it to see if I can figure out what the discrepancy was.
So we can use it to plant some agricultural crops
Forgot to
on
add,
top
divide
of
by
the tennis
27.
court. What?
I forgot to divide by 27.
But still, it still represents that
A substantial.
40 yards of truck,
Mhm.
quite a few truckloads.
Hmm.
We're
you remember-
reading the code, I believe. See how
For what?
it affects what we're doing about the soil removal.
Okay, so this is this is the section, and I understand the discrepancy. It says, this is the agricultural overlay section of the town code, except as part of a construction project for which all approvals required to be obtained under this code have been granted. No agricultural soils of any lot shall be removed from such lot. So they're only allowed to be removed as long as they get the appropriate permit.
Approval, yeah.
So you could allow them to do such a thing because you are granting approval of the project.
So where would
So then
where would
that
the
would be
soils
a
go?
condition that they have to get the proper approvals or permitting to remove it?
It would just, at this point, it would just be A or B approval and a building permit. That's all they have left to get, I imagine.
I'm not sure environmentally what that would help by making them keep this on the property. I mean, it's all lawn, it's all green lawn.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but they,
Where would the soils be brought to? I mean, where would they put the soil? That,
What's that, Denise? I didn't get that.
where would, if the soils that are going to be removed, where would they go?
well, I can tell you that in the past, projects I've been involved with where soil is left, that was done by permit with equipment that was then, of course, sprayed after it was left the site. Trucks that were used that way have to be sprayed back down to make sure the nematode isn't moving and spreading around. And they go back to certain areas where permits have been obtained to store that material. That can be some contractors, that can be some storage pits. That exists. I can't explain it exactly who's going to be doing that, but I know it exists as an option because it's an option that's been used in other places and other times on these projects. So there are some enforced restrictions on the equipment, how it's used. It's got to be steam cleaned, it's got to be washed, it's got to come out of there. Same thing with the trucks, but the material can be moved. And
So can we make this a condition that they provide
it's-
what their plan is
Yes.
for that?
yes,
Yeah, because I'm looking through all their documentation now. And it's not, okay, it's not something they have addressed, how they would go about that in terms of methodology, so.
They addressed it briefly in the hearing.
Oh,
Yes, to remove and put it on another overlay property. But,
okay,
so let's condition it that they provide how they're going to do this. With
right.
specifics. I'd like to know where it's going.
Sure. Yeah.
I would too.
Okay,
And that would be, yeah, the condition of
okay,
approval.
thank you.
Okay,
Council, we good?
Yes.
We made it as confusing as we.
Next, we have Sean and Patricia Bratches at 138 Marine Boulevard, Narragansett, Suffolk Tax Map number 300-176-5-24.
okay,
The size and location is 10,205 square feet at 138 Marine Boulevard, Beach Hampton, Section 1, map number 1203 in Amagansett. The description is to construct a 270 square foot swimming pool with pool equipment and a 359 square foot patio extension on a parcel of land containing beach vegetation, a natural resources special permit pursuant to 255-420 and any other relief necessary from East Hampton Town Code. The zoning district is B residence, the zone X flood zone, and the secret class is type 2. And I believe Denise, you're going to kick us off on this?
I'm going to try, yes. Just give me 1 minute. The public hearing was held September 27, 2022. The representative was Britton Bistrian. The survey is dated received 9/27/2022, last revised August 2nd, 2022. The original proposal was to construct a 270 square foot swimming pool with pool equipment and a 359 square foot patio extension on a parcel of land containing beach vegetation. The application in front of us has changed in a submission dated August 3rd, 2022, submitted by Britton Bistrian. The revisions are summarized as follows. The proposed pool was reduced from 270 square feet to 192 square feet. The proposed patio extension of 349 has been removed from the project. The proposed pool has been relocated closer to the house, predominantly in an already cleared area. Revegetation and native planting have been proposed in the entire rear yard of the project. The TAM points out, and we all know this, but for the record, the parcel in question is of substandard size for B residential zoning, as most of the other lots are within the Beach Hampton area. I did this late in the day, so just give me a second. A revegetation plan was submitted, but they're being asked to update it to include native plantings additional for the area. There also is a fire pit on the plan, but it's not on the survey and not before us tonight. A scenic easement over the inland, intact duneland in this area would be beneficial to ensuring the protection of these important areas. In terms of letters of support, I believe there were 3 letters of support from Jill Dennis, Marshall Freese, and Stephen Corwin, and 2 letters of opposition from Elizabeth Thompson and Jane Mary. I have to say, I've been over this application a million times, going back and forth, the right thing to do. I think that I have to say, though, in this particular case, every effort has been made to protect the natural features. There was some concern over the Wyandanch Lane access. And that access, I believe Chairman Deline brought up, a project limiting fence should be put up on that side. That too would be kind of close to the vegetation we're trying to protect. But, you know, I like to see an applicant work with us. I certainly think that Ms. Bistrian has gone out of her way to meet the concerns of the TAM. And even though in the past, I normally say no to applications like this, I think a lot of thought was put into doing this in the most least intrusive way. They have proposed the pool in a location that's already cleared. And the only concern and discussion I'd like to have with the board is the access for the project, because that obviously I don't want that to cause disturbance. But for the purposes of this application, I feel it is in keeping with the standards and I approve the application.
Thank you. Okay.
Okay. There's another one that initially did not sound like a good project. However, also happy with the changes that were sent in and made on this project on the documentation that we received the night of the hearing. The swimming pool being moved closer. And as far as the scenic easement, I know they said they would do what Tyler suggested in the northwestern portion of the property. They offered it. And then that night, Tyler quickly drew the area he had on the screen. And I don't see that made it into the file online. Could you show us that again or do that again? Basically, it did cover the northwestern portion all the way across the Wyandanch Lane of the upper portion of the property. And that's the scenic easement that I would like them to do. The limits of clearing look like they have been tightened up and they're going to revegetate everything outside of that, which does include some other space within the pool envelope. One thing that bothers me still is the pool equipment, while it fits right on the edges of the pool envelope on the north and west. I would like that to come a little farther down toward the patio. I know there's going to be screening with the revegetation, but I don't know if this on the survey includes like the enclosure that the pool equipment should be inside, or do we have to specify that as it's listed on the survey? It does, because they're just at the 20-foot setbacks for it.
I mean, as far as the enclosure, I think that's something that the building department requires.
Okay, so it has to be enclosed and it would have to fit within
Correct.
that space. Okay, so I do think overall, with the changes made, that this, because of the scenic easement and an updated revegetation plan for natives and wood species indigenous to this area, that I too think it meets the NRSP standards. And I am looking to approve this also.
Thank you. Ed?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm in agreement with my fellow board members. I do have a couple of points to make, though, and that is that I think that the initial proposal was unacceptable in a lot of ways. I think that the effort made by the applicant to move the pool back closer into an area that had already been opened, cleared, and lawn, and eliminate that portion of it was a positive. I think what was key for me was the agreement to the scenic easement, as was described by Member Berger, was shown to us by Tyler Borsak at the last meeting. And I think that their vegetation plan, the re-veg plan, more or less follows that area of the scenic easement, working its way along the north and then down the east side along Wyandanch. It's not quite as extensive, of course, the scenic easement as the re-veg plan, but I thought that was key. I thought that was important to know that the concerns about that portion of the property were being addressed. I thought that there were 3 letters of support. I thought, though, very effective were the letters, the comments were both in person, and the letters that they submitted, both from Elizabeth Thompson and Jane Meering. And I would only say that I think that the effort on the part of the applicant addressed some of that. There was some early information there that they reacted to. I thought they were intelligent, important, and concerned comments. I took them very, very much to heart. And I do think that this application, this applicant in this case, addressed that, if not directly to them, directly to the project at hand. So along with Member Savarese, and I was one who brought it up at the hearing, my concern would be access to the property. And I think that access to the project. And I think that, again, the chair directly commented on that at the time, that the project limited fence would be placed as tightly as possible to the project, so we have the minimum disturbance of the native dune land. So having said all of that, the two conditions that I thought were important, that the scenic easement and the elimination of most of the lawn, and those things were achieved, and protection of this area that we find most critical was promised through the scenic easement. I'm willing to approve this application.
Thank you. I'm going to further I agree with everybody, but I want to talk more about the access. I think, Tyler, if you go back to the other survey, the revised survey. So what you see here on the northern side of the stone driveway, they're going to be installing a proposed pool dry well. And I think that's our area of access along between that northern wall of the driveway and maybe halfway between the pool. You see that?
Yeah, I do.
That's really the only access. They can back out and put the dry well in as they're backing out with the big structure. They don't, once they put that in, they can then re-veg what they have to. But I see that as being, I think we should limit the access, and I think that's one of the only areas that on this site that makes it reasonable.
I'm in agreement with that. I think that limiting it to that exact location you just described is the only way in which you can access this pool without doing sort of the kind of collateral damage that we don't want to see.
So how do we indicate that? Or just
Well, Tyler would set that by his limiting fence. You know what I'm talking about, Tyler, right?
Yeah, you want,
So can you just point to, okay.
essentially want something like that limiting fencing to be like this.
No, no.
So
No, because they have to
gain
come in,
access
they have to
there?
come in from Wine Dance,
Yeah, but you want them to come in wine dance,
but they can't come over that wall. I think
you want them to come in over.
from there and straight out.
Gotcha.
So there might be a little bit of clearing they have to do, but it's going to be so disturbed by the dry well anyway.
along the wall?
Then they have to re-veg
Like
it,
that then.
right? Yeah,
And,
yeah, something like that, Tyler.
and re-veg plan did show them coming down over this access and re-vegging at that over the area we're discussing. So would be an opportunity to correct some of this damage that's done by.
Yeah, and it does appear that that would be the most damage in the access than
Yeah.
actually putting in the pool. So that would work.
Yeah, I'll figure something out.
Yep, that looks about right.
So will this get
So
in the
that
file?
narrow part off of, I'm saying narrow, but it's still wide enough. Between the north wall of the driveway and that line is their access road, like their access area.
So once Tyler does this, can we submit this as a sketch that goes out with the determination
Yep,
to
and
clearly
he would
specify how
it
you
would
want
have
it
to be
done?
inspected before they get the building permit.
Yeah. And we can essentially give it a new date to reference in the determination.
Okay.
Sketch dated, whatever.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Very good.
Okay.
Next, we have Judy Myers at 2 Gardner Drive in Amagansett, Suffolk Tax Map number 300-174-3-29, and that is size and location. It's 12,294 square feet at 2 Gardner Drive, Beach, Hampton, Section 1, map number 1203 in Amagansett. The description is to allow a 34.5 square foot outdoor fireplace, including chimney and barbecue, a 192 square foot gravel area, a 1,642 square foot slate patio with slate walkways, a 6-foot wood fence, and an air conditioning unit to remain on a parcel within 150 foot of freshwater wetlands. The relief sought is a natural resources special permit pursuant to 255-420, and 10 variances are required. Variances from 255-430 wetland setbacks of 56.5, 60.1, 13.4, 64.1, and 7.6 are required to allow chimney, barbecue to remain 43.5, a slate patio to remain 39.9 feet, an air conditioning unit to remain 86.6 feet, a gravel area to remain 35.9 feet, and a fence to remain 22.4 feet from a wetland where 100 foot is required. Variances from 255-1110, dimensional setbacks of 20.5 feet, 25.7 feet, 0.5 feet, 8 feet, and 21.6 feet are required to allow a chimney, barbecue to remain 9.5 feet, a slate patio to remain 4.3 feet, an air conditioning unit to remain 29.5 feet and 22 feet, and a gravel area to remain 8.4 from the front yard lot line where 30 foot is required, and any other relief necessary from East Hampton Town Code. Zoning District B Residence, AE Flood Zone, Elevation 10, and the secret class is Type 2. And I believe Member Berger is going to kick us off on this.
This one. Okay, this was also on September 27th, 2022, the hearing date. And the survey that we referenced was received on March 4th, 2022, dated revised February 28th, 2022. So this property, the owner was represented by Rick Whalen as the agent for Judy Myers, who owned the property since roughly 1990. There are a lot of variances as just listed. The agent presented a scenario where some items were, there's a brick patio. Well, that was legally installed in 2013. The 6-foot wood fence, which is about 10 feet from the property line, was actually approved by the ARB back in 2014. And the slate, that there is a slate walkway sort of coming on the northern part of the property, coming off Wyandanch Lane across to the back part of the house. And then there's another slate patio, which came into being somewhere between 2010 and 2013. That was not permitted. The barbecue in the chimney was not permitted. And the gravel looks like it was from around 2020 and 2021. A lot of the discussion from the agent was about the closeness to Montauk Highway. This northern side of the property is adjacent to the highway. At the end of the property line, it's about 43 feet from the homeowner's property to the edge of the pavement of the highway. The wetland that is in scope for all of these variances is to the northwest corner of that, and about probably from the property line, I don't know, I'm guessing about 20 feet or so. But these are substantial variances. And if you look at the standards for it, I think the variances are, for some aspects, are very large. The variance for the chimney and barbecue that are listed there is 56.5. And for the setback, it's 20.5 from the property line. So I think that that is a large variance. There was stated at the hearing by the planner that there are alternative locations that are available on this property for that, as well as for the gravel unit is also very large area, 64.1 foot variance from the wetlands and 21.6 from the property line setback. And the AC unit at 13.4 is not a large variance request, and it's 0.5 feet from the setback. And the slate patio at a 60.1 foot variance, I find is very substantial also, and 25.7 feet in the dimensional variance from the property line setback. So there was a lot of talk about the wetlands there and how there had been in recent days and maybe still ongoing, some work by New York State in which they actually put a stormwater runoff with asphalt near this property line and near this wetland. Overall, I think that these variances, most of the variances are substantial. I am going to deny the variances for the chimney barbecue, the slate patio, and the gravel area. I am going to approve the variances for the AC unit, which is at the eastern side of the house, and for the fence. The fence had been approved by the ARB, and also because of that this is adjacent to the highway, I think the wood fence is actually a positive thing to be there because of the highway traffic. And the applicant has also agreed that the area between the fence and the property line to the north, that they would allow to naturally revegetate.
Thank you. Ed?
Yeah, this has something of the same flavor of the one we decided about the tennis court, in that there is this buffer that sits lower close to a property line. That property line leads to the state land, which margins a major highway where there is both noise and runoff and other conditions. There is a wetland that seems to be compromised by work that's been done by the state. Nonetheless, it is a wetland, and as was pointed out by the planner in the discussion at the time of the hearing, a wetland is a wetland. It can't be conditioned on its current state, that we hope to rejuvenate them when they can be and to protect them where we have to. So the fact is that wetland still comes into play, even if it has been disturbed and is used as a runoff trough for a good amount of highway rainwater. I think there's an interesting thing here. I think what was said by Member Berger, that the fence makes a certain amount of sense because it does protect them from sound. It's still a variance for us because it's so close to the property, and it's a major variance, and we have to consider this in a kind of carefully. Now, it may have been pre-approved at one other time, but it was not approved for an NRSP. The gravel area seems to me to be quite simply, that was a notation at the time was that was probably installed sometime around 2018. It was well after the slate patio and fireplace, and I don't see any reason for us to approve a variance for a new feature like that goes in as it has. I agree with Member Berger that the variance for the air conditioning unit should be approved. I had a lot of trouble, though, working out whether or not the slate patio and the barbecue were much different than the fence. They were there and they're established, and they do provide some sort of visual, I suppose, protection from the road. Nonetheless, they are a large structure constructed very close to the property, asking for large variances here, side yard variances, or front yard variance in this case. So this notion of what do we do when we come into a situation where this is not particularly disruptive, but it's certainly not following the code. It's been there for a fair amount of time, certainly since 13, probably for 10 years. But after thinking about it and following the code and using that as a guideline, I'm going to approve, follow the same guidelines that Member Berger did. I'm going to approve the air conditioning unit and the fence, but deny the application to allow the variances for the gravelled area that serves as an outside dining and the barbecue area and slate patio that surrounds it.
Thank you. Denise?
Well, without repeating the same language, I'm in complete agreement with my two board members. I'm going to grant the variances for the chimney barbecue, slate patio, gravel area, and I'm sorry, I'm going to deny those variances. Well, I'm sorry. I'm not well tonight. I'm going to deny the variances for the chimney barbecue, slate patio, and gravel area. And I'm okay with the AC unit and the fence. The fence, I was a little bit up and down about because normally, having had much experience with working with the Architectural Review Board, when an applicant submits a fence application, normally the location and where it's going, the board is very aware of it. It's really highly unlikely to me. I don't really know how this happened because it's not how the board operates. So I almost wish the determination for the fence was attached just to see what the board actually did approve, because approving a fence without a location is just not in the normal keeping of what that board does. They take those locations very seriously. But that being said, what's before us tonight, I'll go along with my other fellow board members and approve that fence.
Okay. I have to say I was somewhat conflicted when, we're looking at variance requests and you hear testimony that the state is just coming in and plowing a drainage area through it. And it makes you think about, are they negating the wetlands in doing so? But in looking at the way the TAM is laid out, the TAM is interesting because it says the wetlands associated with subject property are fragmented and likely to serve to catch runoff that flows from Montauk Highway southward. And later on in that paragraph, it says the wetlands within jurisdiction are especially valuable in regards to their ability to absorb and store floodwaters and improve their quality, especially being that they are adjacent to Montauk Highway and have the ability to catch runoff. When water leaves a wetland, it is cleaner and needs less chemical treatment to be suitable for human consumption. So I still think, it states that the wetlands, as Member Johan or Vice Chair Yeoman says, it's still valuable. So I think that we have to look at it that way. And I think I think I will be in agreement with my board members in their decision. Yep, I am.
We good?
Yep. Council, we good?
Yep, okay.
Okay.
All right. We go on to other decisions tonight. Leanne Jody Pinchin at 25 Seaside Avenue, Montauk. Suffolk Tax Map number 300-32-4-37. And that is a planting request. Tyler?
Sorry. So the board received a letter on this. And I can bring up the survey if the board needs a reminder. This was on
Yes.
out in Montauk. The board decided this not too long ago. There was a pretty lengthy discussion, if I remember right, about whether to require the revegetation prior to a building permit or after a building permit. The applicant is asking if they can do the revegetation prior to a CO, but after the building permit is issued. It's getting late in the season, so planting now is it's getting tight as to when it's appropriate. So that's what the request is, that the board allow them to get a building permit, do the construction, and do the revegetation prior to a CO being issued.
And
I
I
understand.
recall when we discussed having the planting done first because of the construction.
Well, oftentimes what we do is request the planting to be first so that construction
Yeah,
activities don't go into that area. So it makes sense for them because of the time frame now to request it the other way. But I think we have to then, Tyler, my recommendation is to protect the area that is to be revegetated before by limiting construction activities to it. So I think that we should request an additional limiting fence in that area so
Yeah,
that
I
we
agree.
can limit the construction
So show us the
in that
revenge.
area. Does it make sense?
Yeah, makes great sense.
Sorry, this is being very slow.
Oh, okay. Take your time.
So the revegetation would be up to the north of the residence in the hashed area. I think we had the project fencing. Yeah, the project fencing is already in
Okay.
here. So it'll definitely cover it in the meantime. And
Okay.
I'll have to, check it. But I'm fairly certain that it should be protected.
But there's no other
Right.
request associated with this? There's not a request to change the planting plan or any of the
No,
material?
just the timing
Right.
is really
Makes
the
sense.
question.
Okay, so that was already conditioned that they would have to do the reveg to get a permit.
Right, to get a building permit, yeah.
Okay, so now
Uh,
we're going to
the-
change that condition.
Usually the board requires it prior to a CO, just that the plan is approved prior to a building permit.
But oftentimes we do request that it's been replanted if it's a sensitive lot and we feel that construction activities should not be in that area.
Yeah, this one, the reason the board, I think part of it was that it had been cleared, it had been vegetated and somebody cleared it. So they wanted to get it reestablished prior to construction being done, but given the timing, that's what
Okay.
they're requesting.
Okay.
Do we need a motion
So,
for that? or-
Yeah, how do we do this then? Because we're changing a condition on that approval, right?
Right, so I think
Is
I'm
it a
going to amend the decision with your
Yeah.
new condition and to ensure that the limiting fence shall remain in place around the proposed planting area. And then allow them to get the building permit prior, and then planting prior to the CO
Right.
issuance.
Okay.
Do we need a motion or do you have?
Yeah, I would just motion to amend the application.
Okay. You want me to make the mod or you want to make it or?
Well, I can make it. So for the application of Leanne Jody Hinton at 25 Seaside Avenue, Montauk, tax map 300-032-04-37, make a motion to amend the determination. Do I need the date on that, or to amend the determination to allow the planting revegetation plan to be implemented after the building permit, but conditioned for the certificate of occupancy.
I'll second it.
I concur.
I concur as well. Thank you. Next is Savage at 115 Waters Edge in Spring, Suffolk, tax map number 300-83-7-3, and that's an extension of a 2019 approval.
Did we skip things?
Yeah.
What?
O'Sullivan should be next.
Oh, I forgot.
What did
Oh,
you
wait a
just
minute.
read?
What did I
What
do?
did you read?
What did I read?
That was just an extension of
Yeah, I
time.
was looking.
Oh, I see. I went down further. I'm sorry. My- All right, Kathy O'Sullivan, 130 South Forest Street in Montauk, Suffolk, tax map number 300-28-7-34.1. And that's a request to reopen the record here, a written record for 1 week for additional submissions.
So the board received this letter requesting that the record be left open. The applicant wanted to, I guess, make comments, but wasn't able to. So they wanted to submit a letter, and they wanted to also submit a letter clarifying some information that they think the board may have confused.
Yeah, it was here.
Yeah, it's a week, right?
And it's not new information, it's regarding utility lines and just clarification?
Right. Clarification of what was discussed, I guess.
Right, so it's not a new topic, okay.
So does that make it okay?
Yeah, I think it's fine.
I think that makes it okay. If it was new information, it might be a little different.
They're asking for 1 week.
1 week.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And well, I mean, there might be new information in the homeowner's letter, but there's no way to know, I guess.
Okay.
Okay, all right, what's another week?
Then you want to make a
Yep,
motion?
I'll make a motion.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Even though it was yours, Member Berger. Then in the case of Kathy O'Sullivan, 130 South Forest Street, Montauk, Suffolk County Tax Map 300-028-07-34.1. I'd like to make a motion to reopen the public record for 1 week to allow, well, just leave it open for 1 week.
1 week to
One.
November 8th.
Additional week, right?
One additional.
Do I have a second?
Oh, second.
Denise?
I concur.
I concur as well. Thank you. Next, we have First SMPD LLC at 19 Collingsworth Drive in Sag Harbor. Suffolk Tax Map number 900-26-4-5, and is pursuant to Southampton Town Code Section 330-164H3. If the land involved in an application is within 500 feet of the boundary of any other municipality, notice of the public hearing shall also be mailed to the municipal clerk of such other municipality. Would the East Hampton Town Board of Appeals have comments? I don't,
So as best
Understand
that
it.
I can understand from reading it this afternoon, this proposed garage is 5 feet too close to the property line to the north. So they're in front of the Southampton Zoning Board of Appeals. To give you an idea on where this is located so that you understand it a little better, so this is Town Line Road right here. So East Hampton would be over here, Southampton / Sag Harbor would be on this side, and this property is right here. So there's a garage, which actually you can zoom in and see right there. The foundation's been constructed. That's slightly too close to the northern property line. There is a fair distance. There's a road and a property in between the town property and the town and Southampton. So if you want to send comments, you certainly can. If not, you can let them know you don't have any comments.
I don't think we're the most affected neighbor in this case, so I
Yeah.
would not be interested in doing it. And it's 500 within,
Yeah, it's 500 feet, so it's a pretty wide berth
500
that they.
feet away from East Hampton.
Say
The
that again, I'm
town
sorry?
is 500 feet away from the town of East Hampton.
Well, 500 feet is the distance that if something is
requires
within, they'll
notice.
automatically send it to us. We do the same thing for
Southampton.
the village in Southampton. If we have a project within 500 feet, we send them and let them know. But this one is like 330 feet roughly.
Hmm.
It's pretty far.
But as the chair said, we're not the most affected neighbor here. There are neighbors
I don't know,
between.
we'd have to say
East
that.
I
Hampton
mean,
town.
we're not even really an affected neighbor. The neighbor to the north is
So we're talking specifically about this project.
this project only. Yes, yeah. It's rare that we get them. There's not too many projects on the borders like that.
Denise, any thoughts?
I don't have any comments on this.
How unusual.
Hey, don't pick on me because I'm not there.
All right.
I don't see us wanting to make a comment.
No, I don't see us.
So we have to do anything?
No, what do we do with this one? Do we make a motion or?
I mean, you could just send a letter stating that you don't have
Right,
comments.
that's-
You can make a motion.
All
You
right,
don't have
that's it.
comments. I don't
Yeah,
know.
I would agree. All right.
I don't know.
Thank you.
So you're gonna write a letter?
Yeah, we'll write a letter. Extensions of time. We have Edge Capital Management LLC at 2128 Montauk Highway, Amagansett, Suffolk Tax Map number 300-110-2-21, extension of a 2008 approval.
Okay, so this one's a bit more involved than a standard. This was from 2008, so it is getting quite old at this point. It is a coastal property. I'll bring up the aerials. And if you want me to bring up GIS to look at things, we certainly can. Being a coastal property, if this was for a residence, fairly large residence, porches, sanitary, and driveway, which most of the driveway's been cleared. I don't know if the whole driveway's in place right now, but the driveway's at least been cleared as of right now. They did get a building permit for the work. Seems like the construction didn't really go anywhere. They sort of cleared the driveway and it sort of ended at that point. Did require one variance from freshwater wetlands. There's interior wetlands on this property. Let me pull up the aerial. So this is this year's 2022. Construction would have taken place over here. You can see the driveways in, or the it's been cleared along the north or the east property line. Wetlands are back here on the property. House was here, and you also have obviously the Atlantic Ocean on the south side. The concern that I immediately had was that it's a coastal property and it's been over, significant amount of time, 15 years almost. So how is the shoreline changed? And if you take a look at to gain reference, there's like a little boardwalk thing right here. You can see that we've lost a little bit of a beachfront right here. So beach line was probably out here back in 2007, right before the application was approved, and it's retreated quite a bit. That being said, I geo-referenced the survey to put where the dune crest line was, which is back here pretty far. The chances of the dune crest changing dramatically or really significantly at all are very limited. I doubt that they have. Obviously, I haven't been there to see what the dune crest looks like. We haven't verified them or anything like that recently. Nothing, neither the neighbors we've been able to verify anytime recently to compare. So they have lost some of the foredune, but the dune crest itself, I doubt, has changed significantly. So the question is, I think, does the board want additional information? Are you comfortable granting a 1-year extension of time on this? They also have an extension of time for an administrative approval they had for a swimming pool on the property. And we're just sort of holding on to that until the board decides on this one.
But there's a wetland too involved.
There's wetlands to the north, yeah.
To the north.
You can see the wetland line actually right here.
Does that look like it changed at all?
No, I don't think that's changed. That's pretty solid right there.
What are we granting?
It's mostly topography-based wetland.
Extension of time.
Extension of time.
How long?
Oh, for 1 year.
1 year. Yeah.
It's getting
I mean-
old.
And
And how far along is it? What is it?
Oh, what?
How much work have they done?
They've cleared, let me pull up
the construction has started.
No
Cleared.
construction yet?
They cleared this driveway years ago now. Did a little bit of clearing up here and then it just sort of stopped. I think that's as far as I can tell. They do have a standard sanitary system, so they will have to change it to an IA. They might be able to just swap in the IA system itself. It may need a modification. Depends on how extensive the changes are in that case. But yeah, that's the only other thing on this one.
I mean, I don't know, based on the fact, typically we take a look at anything 10 years and older.
Yeah.
14 years.
And I mean, Tyler and both Brian Frank have said that most likely the dune crest has not been affected or changed over that time. So the setbacks would not have been different from the original decision.
And it was set back pretty far at the time too. I think it was 120 that it was set back from the dune crest, where the setback is 100 feet. So it even had distance before it would need a variance if it had shifted. I don't think it shifted more than 20 feet, certainly. But obviously there's no way to know exactly where it is unless we did a whole, plot inspection of it.
We grant this variant, we grant this extension of time, will be at 15 years when they come back to us next year.
Right, if we grant it, maybe we can recommend that the next time they come back to us is required a new flagging.
Yeah.
Maybe that's one way to deal with it now.
And if we don't grant.
I mean, since 2008, we've had a lot of coastal
They haven't done anything
issues.
yet.
Yeah, I agree with that too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So what happens if we don't grant it?
We have to
The
reflag it.
determination is rescinded? It's expired then, right?
Expired, yeah, expired.
I don't know. I think that applicants should be given the heads up of what we're thinking about doing the next time. And if we grant it this time, I would feel comfortable if there was something in there saying exactly what Chairman Deline just said, that a flagging takes place, if nothing happens within the next year. And give the applicant opportunity to at least know what's coming.
I agree.
They'll be 15 years out next year coming
Right.
in, reflag and have the lot reassessed at that.
Or re-verify if they can.
So that verbiage can go into the extension of time resolution.
Yes.
And then next year, should they come back, it would be subject to them getting
Right.
reflagged. I think that I'd be comfortable with that.
Reluctantly agree.
Hmm?
I would reluctantly agree.
Yeah, okay.
Well, you think that's fine.
Is the council okay with the language we've just
Yeah,
created?
council, are you okay writing that up?
Yeah, got it.
Do we make so we would,
We need a motion.
we make a motion, I'll make a motion, Edge Capital Management LLC at 2128 Montauk Highway, Amagansett, Suffolk Tax Map number 300-110-2-21 to allow the extension of time with the condition that for future approval, that the a wetlands flagging and survey be submitted.
I second.
I concur.
I concur.
And we can include the same language in our administrative one. So that you have, it's on both of them.
So you get an extension of time for the admins too?
Yeah, we got one that was back in 2014. They get an administrative extension of time, but obviously, I wasn't going to do that before the board granted it on the house itself.
Next, we have Neil Pilsner, which is a recent one, at 56 3 Mile Harbor Drive at East Hampton, Suffolk Tax Map number 56-5-6, and the extension of a 2019 approval.
So the board may remember this one. I think the neighbor to the north, the Property Owners Association, had some concerns at the time. It's a pretty big redevelopment of the property. They haven't done any work. I don't think any construction's even been initiated. I don't think a building permit's been issued. So it's pretty straightforward. This is their first extension of time, I believe.
Okay, I'm okay with this.
Yeah, I'm okay with
I
it.
am too.
So
I have to.
I'll make a motion for Neil Pilsner, 56 3 Mile Harbor Drive, East Hampton, Suffolk Tax Map number 56-5-6, to approve the extension of time.
I'll second it.
I concur.
I concur.
Next is Savage at 115 Waters Edge in Springs, Suffolk Tax Map number 300-83-7-3, and the extension of a 2019 approval.
So this was the approval to replace the bulkhead on this property. The work is all done. They're ready for a CO. They just need an extension of time in order to get their CO.
Oh,
Okay, all
Simple enough.
okay with that.
right, Denise?
Denise?
Okay.
Yeah, we're good.
In the matter of the application of Savage, 115 Waters Edge and Springs, Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-83-7-3, I make a motion to approve the extension of time.
I'll second that.
I concur.
I concur as well, thank you. Next, we have the minutes approval of October 25th.
Okay,
2022.
for the East Hampton Town Zoning Board of Appeal, make a motion to approve the minutes from October 22nd, 2022.
I'll second it.
And I concur.
I concur too.
Next, we have resolutions. We have two of them. First one is Nicholas Family Trust at 16 Mudford Avenue in Spring, Suffolk Tax Map number 300-38-7-15. And council, brief description.
Yep, this application was for an NSRP only. No variants were required on this application. It was to construct a floating rafts for the cultivation of oysters. The project consisted of the floating rafts with 7 tray racks suspended beneath each raft, lantern nets suspended from the rafts, and floating upweller systems. This was a decision of the board all in favor of granting it, as it is in line with the NSRP guidelines. One of the biggest sticking points was the fact that they were actually going to reduce the number of boat docking stations that were over there and actually add in, this natural resource back into the waters. There was no negative aspects really that the board countered on this application at all.
Thank you. Denise?
In the matter of the application of Nicholas Family Trust, 16 Mudford Avenue in Springs, Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-38-7-15, I make a motion to approve the determination as written.
I'll second.
Concur.
I concur as well. Thank you. Bless you.
Bless you.
Next is Miller Brothers Hospitality LLC at 28 Maidstone Park Road in Springs, Suffolk Tax Map number 300-38-4-22.1. Council?
This was an appeal of the determination of the principal building inspector that was dated back in March 28th of 2022. There was a finding that there was an on-site catering company which represented additional uses on the property. They already, as we know, they have a restaurant use and they have a residential use on the property. The question brought before the board was whether this could be considered a third or even possibly a fourth use of the property. Plenty of evidence was brought into the public hearing that represented pictures of different trucks with different insignias on them, amounts of employees, increased garbage, increased catering equipment, and so on, as well as there was a distinction made at the public hearing that they were several different companies operating out of the same area. The code only allows for the 2 uses in that area. I mean, the decision's written with the appropriate law, and we were only deciding whether or not there was uses. There was no site plan issues or anything. As such, this was all board members voted in upholding the determination of the building department inspector.
Thank you.
Okay.
Denise?
Okay, in the matter of the application of Miller Brothers Hospitality LLC, 28 Maidstone Park Road in Springs, Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-38-4-22.1, I make a motion to approve the determination as written.
I'll second it.
Concur.
I concur as well. Thank you. That concludes our agenda for this evening. Before I go to Vice Chair, I just want to say to Denise, I hope you feel better.
Thank you.
And Vice Chair, would you like to?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to make a motion to adjourn this East Hampton Town Zoning Board of Appeals meeting work session on November 1st, 2022 at 7:56 p.m.
I'll second.
I concur.
I concur as well. Thank you, everyone.
Have a good night.